Good morning, church. All right. Our time for our reading of our announcements, so those who are reading impaired, may hear. The Climate Action Group would like to hear your views. We are considering possible participation in the Unitarian Universalist Association Green Sanctuary. Paper copies of the survey are available in the lobby after each service, and an electronic version could also be circulated. Please contribute your voice to their decision. There will be a memorial service for Darrell Decker, who was very proud to be a fourth generation Unitarian Universalist. Here on November 25th at 1:30. And I hope all of you are aware that there is a special congregation meeting following this service. There'll be a Thanksgiving potluck on the 23rd at 1 p.m. in the RE Great Room. Please join in our Thanksgiving potluck and RSVP to Darrell's mama, Jan. And finally, I'd just like to say, silence all of your electronic devices. I may have left my script at home this morning, but I have already silenced my phone. All right.
Good morning. And welcome. Great to see you this morning. I'm Catherine Massey, Director of Music, and I'm happy to invite you to begin this service with singing. We're going to begin with Guide My Feet, which is 348 in the gray hymnal, if you are using that. And the typo is mine, I'm sure. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing together.
Guide my feet while
That sounded pretty good. All right. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. This is our home. We are the church. We welcome those of you who are in our sanctuary this morning, especially the children, and those who are joining us via streaming technology. I am Haney Pearson, your service associate, and our service leader is the all-around good guy, James Caulfield. Our director of music is Catherine Massey, and she is joined by the Unitarian Universalist Church choir. Choir, okay. I grew up in Virginia, y'all. Our director of religious education is Kelly Ingram. Assisting us are Elwin Nunn on camera and Claire Neal Wallace. The children are have hyphenated names. They are Neal Wallace. Some of us, forget that hyphen, all right? And audio, sorry, he's on audio. Mike Yasko on YouTube. Our greeters today are Carol Stanfield, Sarah Thomas, and Judy Woody. I want to see how she runs back and forth between servicing and singing alto, all right? Hospitality is offered today by the Seekers Covenant Group. We are all delighted to be with you this morning. Unitarian Universalism has no creed nor dogma. We are a covenant-based church, meaning that we agree to live in relationship with each other according to the Unitarian Universalist principles and our congregation's covenant of right relations. We embrace diversity in all its forms, as everyone is welcome here. You can learn more about our church at our website, UUCLC.org. If you are visiting us today, we'd like to meet you. If you are in the sanctuary, please rise in body or spirit and introduce yourself by telling us your name and where you are from. But please wait until I bring the microphone because it's not there. It's in the left hand, okay? Because that's the only way people are going to hear you on YouTube, and some of us might be wearing hearing aids or forgot them, all right? Anyone? Sir? You mean that green one? All right. I'm glad you told me because I was on my way down. All right. I saw a hand. All right. And everybody points to you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Melinda Leach. My first time here, although I was here the other night for the wonderful, wonderful Irish performance. I haven't belonged to a church in many years, but I know this is a good one. And so I just thought I'd come and check it out. Thank you.
Any other brave souls? All right. I know most of you. Visitors joining us by YouTube cannot be recognized during the service, but please leave your contact information in the comments section, and we'll be able to invite you to other goings-on at the church. Just please fill out a visitor's form, and either put it in the collection basket or give it to a greeter.
Good morning. Toby Ord, the a philosopher at Oxford, has a book called The Precipice about existential risk these days. It's actually not depressing to read. Humans have been around for about 2,000 years, so about 10,000 generations of ancestors have brought us to this point. Our planet will be habitable for roughly 1 billion years. So we are the ancestors of maybe 250 million more generations. Toby Ord compares us to teenagers, 16 years old, just coming into their power, just old enough to get into very serious trouble. Can I have the keys to the car, please? Because almost all of humanity's life lies in the future, almost everything of value lies in the future as well. Almost all the flourishing, almost all the beauty, our greatest achievements, our most just societies, our most profound discoveries. This is our potential. The possibility of preventable existential risks in our lifetimes shows that there are issues where our actions can have sustained positive effects over the whole long-term future, and where we are the only generation in a position to produce those effects.
This morning's chalice lighting. We light our chalice in the spirit of these words by the Unitarian Universalist minister Edward Everett Hale. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something I can do. Would you please rise in body and or spirit and join me in saying of the church's affirmation of covenant and the singing of the doxologies in English and Spanish. Love is the document of this church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Good morning, church. I think we are in what New Mexicans call fake fall, because I'm cold, but it will be 70 degrees this afternoon. Today's Time for All Ages is titled, It's Not My Problem. Once upon a time, a queen sat in her balcony eating rice cakes and honey with her chief advisor. As they ate, they gazed down at the busy street below. The queen pointed to something in the distance, and as she did this, a drop of honey from her rice cake landed on the balcony railing. "My queen, you have spilled a drop of honey," observed the advisor. "Shall I call a servant to come and clean it up?" But the queen laughed. "A little drop of honey is not my problem. Someone will clean it up later." They went on eating and talking as the drop of honey warmed in the sun and began to slowly drip down the side of the railing until it landed on the street below with a plop. "Your Highness," the advisor said, "the drop of honey has now fallen into the street where it is attracting flies. Shouldn't we call a servant to come and clean it up?" But again, the queen yawned lazily and replied, "A little drop of honey and a few flies are not my problem. Someone will deal with it later." Soon, a lizard darted out from underneath the palace wall and began to catch the flies on her tongue. Then a cat sprang from the baker's shop and began to bat at the lizard back and forth like a toy. Just then, a dog from the butcher's shop began to bite the cat on the neck. "Your Highness," the advisor implored, "now the flies have attracted a lizard, which has attracted a cat, which has attracted a dog. Shouldn't we call someone to stop the fight?" But the queen only stretched and shook her head at the advisor. "Won't you relax? A silly animal fight is not my problem. Someone will surely see to it." In fact, the baker did see to it. She saw the dog attacking her cat and ran out with her rolling pin and began to hit the dog. And then the butcher heard his dog howling and ran out with his broom and began to hit the cat. Soon the butcher and the baker were hitting each other. Then the neighboring shopkeepers began to take sides, joining in the fight. Then some soldiers came along. Some knew the butcher and some knew the baker. So the soldiers too took sides, and the battle grew, and it grew, and it grew until a great battle waged in the streets. People were throwing rocks through windows and tipping over vendor carts. Someone picked up a torch from the wall and hurled it through a window. Fire raged, and eventually it spread to the palace. The next thing they knew, the queen and her advisor were being escorted down a ladder from the balcony into the street below because the palace itself was in flames. Later that day, when the fire had died out, the queen and her advisor surveyed the ruins of their land. Suddenly, the queen stopped in the street underneath where the balcony had been. She reached down and touched something, a small puddle on the ground. "It's honey," she said, remembering. "I guess I should have cleaned up that drop of honey in the first place. Now my whole kingdom has been lost because of it." That was the last day the queen ever said, "It's not my problem." Thank you. Two times.
May your
Would you rise in body and/or spirit for the singing of our opening hymn, number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth? One of the ways we support one another in community is through the sharing of joys, sorrows, and milestones. In these challenging times, it is crucial that we make attempts to stay connected together. If you have a joy, sorrow, or milestone you'd like to share with the congregation this morning, please raise your hand and I will bring the mic to you. State your name and what is in your heart, but a gentle reminder that this is not a time for announcements. Do we have any joys, sorrows? All right.
This is a sorrow. I wanted to share with the congregation, and many of you may already know this, but on Friday, Maggie Reynolds, the wife of our county commissioner Shannon Reynolds, passed away. She was a wonderful example of UU values and the way she lived her life and reached out to people and helped make positive change in the community. So it is really sad to have Maggie gone from us.
My name is Jennifer Trantham, and I want to say thank you to everybody because of my sorrow, the loss of my partner. I don't think I could have gotten through it without my community that I belong to here and the love that you guys have all shared with me. Thank you very much.
He was a good guy. He was a good guy.
You gave me courage. A big reason why I'm here and in search of some community is that I lost my husband last year and just need support in grief. And I think y'all can relate to that. Thank you.
Mine is a sharing of joy. Like here? Yes. All right, got it. Last week when I shared with you all the sorrow that I had when my I found my friend that had passed away. I could not believe the sincerity when I went out for coffee after the service and the young people that came up to me with the most sincere sorrow of my loss of losing my friend. And I just want you to know as a congregation how wonderful a job they are doing with our children, because they are the future.
Hi, I'm Jody Natchison, and I want to share a mini sorrow, not a big one. But as many of you know, Jerry's been in and out sick since March, and every week they seem to come up with a new flavor of the illness for him. So right now he's at home because his leg is swollen and it's not a clot. They told him to go to the hospital. They don't know what's wrong, and he's having problems walking, which is why he's not here today. And then he's had this wonderful ongoing urinary tract infection since March, and they still don't know what's wrong with him. So if anybody has the time to give him a call, he would like to be here. He'd like to be active, but the cards are being dealt on the other side of the table this hard time. So thank you, and I thank you for all the support we've gotten. It's meant a lot to us, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning. I have a joy. On Friday night, 75 people sat in these seats where you are and swayed and clapped and sang along with the Irish singer Karen Casey and her trio. And it was a fabulous event, part of our series, our inaugural year, I'm hoping, of song stories and social good concert series. It was a great event. Catherine Massey helped us a great deal in putting this together. And there were other folks like Kathy Cox and Dave Rice and somebody else I'm forgetting, who helped to take the tickets and make it the special event that it was.
I didn't know I was going to have a joy till I arrived today. My name is Tammy, and I've been a member of this church with Catherine, my partner, for over 25 years. And we used to have a program here for grandkids, that didn't have adoptive grandkids. And so we also had adopted nieces and nephews. And the Richens daughters were our adopted nieces. And now, of course, they're adults. And it was a very much of a pleasure. I'm mentioning this because my church nephew is up in the choir, Josh. So I just gotta love you.
I just need to set the record straight about the concert series. So I really just helped people get together to do that. Dave Rice and Pat DeSimio and Kathy Cox and Mark Sukantarak. And this team is wide open for other people. If you like that kind of event, we could use some help with it. And I just help guide, and then I step away and appreciate the wonderful music that comes.
I will light an additional candle. Okay. For the joys and sorrows expressed today, and also for the ones we hold too deeply within our hearts to express publicly. First, you have to melt the wax. This meditation was written by Rebecca Savage, Senior Minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Rockville, Maryland. Spirit of life, eternal beloved mystery and grace, receive our prayer. We come before that which is greater than ourselves in gratitude for the fullness of our lives, for the anguish and grief that informs our mission to side with love again and again, for the suffering and disenfranchisement of our people that foments our passion for justice and wholeness, for complex lives, for hard lives, for real, full, and overwhelmed lives. We give thanks for the blessings that we have been given, the reassurance of community, the steady warmth of hope, and the unwavering faith that there will be better days. We give thanks and seek your grace, Spirit of love. Come alongside with all the holy nudges that we need so that we may live in such a way that we celebrate all the blessings we have been given, so that we may be the blessings in the world.
The choir is singing Sweet Honey in the Rock, but being mindful of the African American tradition that all voices are included. And so we're going to invite you to sing with us, and I'll teach you the chorus. The words will be up briefly, and then sing with us when we get started. So first of all, just say back to me, there's honey in the rock. 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 For all God's children. For all God's children. There's honey in the rock. There's honey in the rock. Feed every child of God. Feed every child of God. All right.
There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. Hypocrite, God despise. Feed every child of God. Tongue so clean, naughty still tells lies. Feed every child of God. We can have justice if we care. Feed every child of God. Right is right and fair is fair. Feed every child of God. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. Hand to hand, heart to heart. Feed every child of God. Together we'll approach to the promised land. Feed every child of God. There's honey in the rock. When I'm happy, I'll shout and sing. Feed every child of God. And make the heavenly spirit ring. Feed every child of God. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. One of these every child of God. Gonna take my flight in the middle of the air. Feed every child of God. One of these nights about 12 o'clock. Feed every child of God. This whole world's gonna really rock. Feed every child of God. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. If we wanna be fair, we gotta open the door. Feed every child of God. We gotta house the homeless and feed the poor. Feed every child of God. If the chains hold us down, we gotta break the lock. Feed every child of God. Then we'll sing sweet honey in the rock. Feed every child of God. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Honey in the rock, honey in the rock. There's honey in the rock for all God's children. Feed every child of God.
Guide my feet, for I don't want to go astray. Feed every child of God. And I think of that when I see the news and the injustice and the war. We're all God's children. It's the perennial problem. What kind of gift to give that special somebody? What do they really need? It's hard to imagine, especially when we don't know them well, or they live very far away, or they haven't even been born yet. Such gifts do exist, as, for example, the book of Genesis. The Pharaoh has a dream, but no one can interpret it, until Joseph predicts 7 years of abundance and then 7 years of famine. So the Pharaoh stores up food, a great gift for when the famine comes. Joseph also explains how this is an example of adaptation and resilience, as promoted by the Unitarian Universalist Green Sanctuary Initiative. That's a joke, folks. He adds that the Pharaoh could also insulate the pyramids extremely well and install ultra-high efficiency HVAC. This would make the pyramids much more comfortable and would mitigate or reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, thus cutting back on those famine years. I may need to reread that Bible passage, but I think it speaks to our time. We have some fat years still, but there are predictions of skinny ones. It's a good thing that the Pharaoh could see the change, the change that needed to be made. In the age of climate change, we ourselves may not know what gifts we need, even when we have been trained to know this, even when it is our job to know what is needed. Climate change has moved everything off the scale, and things that are happening now are already difficult to imagine. In his book, Fire Weather, John Vaillant tells of one Canadian fire 20 years back. The United States is on the phone and wants to know, did Canada just set off a nuke? The US authorities could not imagine a fire so powerful. And indeed, when it comes time for the scientists to write it up in a paper, they have to use, instead of kilowatts and megawatts per square meter, the traditional terms, they have to talk about the units of atom bombs, kilotons and megatons. 2016, the city of Fort McMurray is a very wealthy oil town in Canada, the center of the tar sands production. Its firefighters are among the highest paid in North America, no slouches they. A fire is approaching the town. It is very close. It is very bad. The fire chief goes on the local radio show to inform the town. Out the studio window, he can see the fire intensifying, growing closer. He goes through the list. Yes, it has already jumped across a river that is 1/3 of a mile wide. That was the main barrier protecting the town. Yes, humidity is off the scale, a record low. Yes, the temperature is off the scale, a record high, almost 30 degrees hotter than the average for that time of the year. All indicators are in the 100th percentile. The fire weather index, how dangerous it is off the charts. 21 is considered very high. 33 is considered extreme. The fire weather index that day is 40, again, off the scale. Worst of all, the weather forecast says the wind is going to turn toward the town and pick up speed. All signs point to a catastrophic fire entering the city, and yet the fire chief cannot say this. The interviewer asks, "Should the residents be prepared for a possible evacuation order?" The chief responds, "People need to go to work. Mom needs to take the kids to school. Dad needs to take the guys to the ball game afterwards. But just be cognizant this is a serious situation. Be mindful that this situation can change on short notice." The crucial sense of urgency was missing. Given these conditions, the author of the book says, the worst, a Category 6 boreal crown fire, was already a certainty. Atom bombs of unstoppable energy were headed into town. Despite these shocking numbers, despite the fire clearly visible out the window, the fire chief still cannot imagine it. No one had ever seen anything like it. No one except for Jamie and Ryan Coots from the nearby town of Slave Lake. There, a 2011 fire burned 1/3 of the town in a few hours, 500 homes. So, what the Slave Lake firefighters were doing there was offering not just equipment, but experience, a way of thinking about boreal fire that could save lives and infrastructure. This tremendous gift was refused. They were told to go home, even as the inferno towered toward the town. But first, they were offered a tour of the brand new state-of-the-art firehouse. During the tour, one of them looked out the window and said, "You're going to lose 100 houses today," and left. They left in the middle of the tour. They were going off to fight the fire, whether they were paid or not. The whole city of Fort McMurray, 88,000 people, fled in traffic jams through mountains of flame. Unbelievable video, unbelievable pictures. Amazingly, almost no one died. Many attribute this to God's grace. They prayed desperately while stuck in traffic, surrounded by the inferno. It helped that these were mostly oil field workers, tough, young, well-disciplined. They were also Canadians. When one husband reached for the lights and sirens so he could go around the traffic, his wife upbraided him. "Don't you be that guy. Don't you be that one who prioritizes himself over everyone else." So they all stayed in line in the middle of the fire. That brand new firehouse would have to be abandoned. 2,400 homes were destroyed. The fire would not be extinguished for 15 months, more than a year. What went wrong? Why did the best trained firefighters fail to heed the very clear warning signs? Like everyone else, they were basing their responses on things they'd already seen, a history that did nothing to prepare them for the new reality. It's hard to learn this new reality, for it violates our pre-reasoning animal expectations of normality. We will fail many times. In 2018, the California fires gave insufficient warnings. Paradise. 2020, you might not know it, but Australia lost 1/5 of its forests. It's a different kind of fire. Fire trucks were picked up by the fire tornadoes and lifted into the air with people in them. People died. The lesson was not learned in time for Maui, when the indicators of extreme danger were not communicated, nor was the power shut off to stop the sparking lines. Now, it isn't just firefighters and emergency service professionals that have a hard time learning these things. It's all of us. This seems to be the central challenge we face. Even when we see that facts demand action, we stand incredulous. We cannot believe that such dangers threaten. There's a disconnect between the abstract knowledge on the one hand and the direct experience on the other. It's a weakness we must know and we must try to compensate for. We need more people like Joseph to help us see what is needed. To those who do experience this kind of fire, for them, they have learned very deeply. One comment was that every person in Fort McMurray now has PTSD. We can say that too for the survivors of Katrina and Harvey, etc. Vaillant concludes with this warning: we're all headed into a world we can hardly imagine. And every step we take toward adaptation and resilience is a gift toward the future, as is every step of mitigation, reduction of our emissions. So what do we need to prepare for? Hotter heat waves, bigger droughts, but also worse cold snaps and heavier rains. Here in New Mexico, the length of the fire season has increased 59 days since 1971. Just one fire, Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak, destroyed over 900 structures. Many were not insured. And elsewhere, insurance costs have skyrocketed. It's not just fires that are out of control. When Otis hit Acapulco a few weeks back, it was a top of the scale Category 5 hurricane, but just hours before it was a tropical storm. Who could imagine? Hurricanes are not supposed to intensify like that. Hurricane Harvey hit Houston with almost 5 feet of rain. Weather forecasters had to invent a new color for rain that was so intense. For Haney's sake, I almost made a joke about purple rain here, because that was the color. But then also I realized these people were deeply traumatized, and you cannot go making jokes where there's trauma. So, half the homes in Houston were damaged. Most were not insured. They were not even in the floodplain, so they didn't imagine they could be flooded. Here in New Mexico, intense rain flooded Hatch not too long ago, and people were made homeless. We had extreme rainfall in La Union just a couple of years ago, too. But when I ask a contractor for bigger gutters on the house, I'm told those won't be necessary. Me, I would prefer a generous size gutter, something that will be a great gift when the deluge comes. How about insulation? A 2023 Household Pulse survey found that almost 30% of New Mexicans have kept their homes at unhealthy temperatures because of heating and cooling costs. The same study found that 40% of New Mexicans gave up basic necessities in order to pay their energy bills. You wouldn't think that insulation is related to feeding God's children, but it is. 40% gave up basic necessities. The numbers are bad across the country. When these places were built, nobody could imagine that energy would cost so much or temperatures be so extreme. So they built with very little insulation. Now we wish they'd been more generous. Katya and I have had experience with too little insulation. We lived in a cinder block house, no insulation in the walls, very common here in Las Cruces. I'm sure some of you live in them right now. It wasn't that bad. What happened to, well, so February 2011, the temperatures fell to close to zero. Las Cruces was on rolling blackouts. What happened to the power plants? The people who built them could not imagine that temperatures would go to zero, since that had never happened before. Well, at least not for 25 years. No electricity meant the gas pumps failed, so natural gas pressure dropped and our heaters stopped working. Wasn't a very good heater in the first place, frankly. We had a digital thermometer with tenths of degrees on it. The temperature was already in the low 40s, and every few seconds, it would fall another tenth of a degree. So you'd get to watch 40 degrees, 39.9, 39.8. It was really scary. I have a poster of a very well-insulated house. You can see it if you go to Staples to the pickup counter anytime you want to. Sorry, I forgot it there. I didn't manage to bring it today. A very well-insulated. It's $26, and I think Haney's going to pick it up for me. A very well-insulated house called a passive house. It's 10% more expensive to build, but it saves 90% of the energy. So says Bob Villa of This Old House fame, that radical. For a $200,000 home, that's $20,000 more expensive. But the average New Mexico electricity bill is almost $2,000 a year. So the extra cost would pay off in about 11 years. After 11 years, the house is paid off, and you are down to very little energy. This would be a gift to ourselves as well as to the future, but people don't build them. It's amazing the number of things that people say, oh, it's not worth it to build, but they will pay off. There might be eighth principle issues here as well. Las Cruces released a heat map of the city. The hottest areas are in the downtown, lower income areas. The higher income, newer neighborhoods like Sonoma Ranch, Picacho, where we live now, are about 10 degrees cooler. And you have to remember too, those are the cinder block houses with older heating and less insulation and less cooling. So that's something that the town might try to work on. I'd love to see some engineering students try to figure out what to do there. So I guess there are two big problems lurking behind these particular issues. One is our tendency to think based upon history and not to be able to see what the predictions mean. That's the fire chief's problem. But we also tend to assume that a purely selfish logic prevails. We get trained to think that way. When the contractor comes to you and talks to you about installing XYZ, oh, that's not worth it. Why? Well, solar panels don't make sense if you're going to move in 3 years. Why? Well, it takes 6 to 10 years to pay off. But after that, they're good for, well, so they last 25 to 35 years or longer. So that gives you 15 to 29 years of free energy. It's hard to beat the deal that solar panels are. That's that radical Bob Villa again. The current bias of the building industry is towards saving money on the initial investment, regardless of payback. Building to spec means building to the minimum that codes will allow. It's hard to blame the builders, since the buyers can't see the extra insulation in the walls, but they can see that one house costs $20,000 more while they look the same. So this minimum becomes our standard, even though it locks in higher energy use for the whole life of the building. It is this logic that has mortgaged our atmosphere, those are Vaughan's terms, and left that debt for future generations. I hope we can move toward a more generous logic, at least in our buildings. With climate change, there's always something you can do. I think we need to give people some wiggle room, though, as well. It's hard to fault people when they go traveling for vacation when the whole world is leaking enough methane, just leaking it out of pipes, to power all of Europe. or while the Permian Basin flares enough gas to power all of Kentucky. It's probably more because that's been expanded. One of my favorite climate scientists is Katharine Hayhoe. She says the most important thing to do is talk about climate change. Well, that might not seem like much, but that's all that Joseph did for the Pharaoh, at least at first. The Yale Climate Communications Project says that only 1/3 of American households talk about climate once a month. Greta says if we talked about these things in proportion to their importance, we would talk about it all the time. In closing, I'd like to just mention some people here at the UUCLC who have given gifts to the climate future. Jack Souls donated solar panels in 2011, I think, and they are still cranking away just fine. And they've certainly paid for themselves. That is a gift to the future. Charlie Welch helped assess the buildings with Dave Rice, and Charlie solved the great riddle of the El Paso electric bills, a mighty achievement that 5 people had tried to solve before. Jane Ash has given her tireless work on all things legislative and very much more. Dave Rice is a trooper who puts up with me and is our EPE liaison. Greg White's worked on building assessment, written up extensive recommendations. Kathy Cox, Mark's contract, Annette Turrentine, and Katya Gonzalez are regular attendees who talk about climate change, and we know that just doing that is hard work. It's a very big gift. How many people here know that Karuna is a grower of kelp? That's his business. Ginny Herrick and her husband, Jim, have over the years made their house into a living gift for the future. They have solar panels, solar hot water heating, which heats the house as well as daily water. They have rain barrels, compost, double pane windows, elastomeric roof. Then she's got a plug-in hybrid. And the last time I talked to her, she was still on the same tank of gas from Christmas. I mean, I didn't realize that could go. So that's a model to us all, a gift to the future. Carol Felsing and Richard Wright are keeping us informed of other efforts within the UU Church at large. Steve Hitchka and Katie Fitzgerald did a lot of work on the grant. Ask Steve how much work he did, he'll laugh. Ha ha, it's a bunch. Charlie Schultz and Bill Fitzgerald and the rest of the facilities team have done a huge amount of work for this church, basically keeping it running. And I apologize to those who I'm leaving out. Some good news I'll close with. Wall Street is talking about how it's cheaper to save the planet than destroy it. What? Where's your data for that? You might have noticed that the majors are now buying up the Permian. It could be good news. So Shell, Exxon, the really big companies are moving in. Why is it good? Well, methane contributes to 30% of global warming. It's a huge thing. And satellites now show that leakage is 70% worse than it was reported to be, maybe 100% worse. This is low-hanging fruit. Just close the leaks. Comparatively easy to fix, well, but it's going to take big companies with a lot of money to do it. Let's hope that's the plan at this upcoming COP28 conference, the UN conference, worldwide. It could make a big difference. Other news, Toyota invented the solid-state battery. Wow. The lithium-ion battery is pretty good, but the solid-state battery is way better. It's a game changer. It's going to be cheaper, quicker charging, probably too heavy for cars, but it's a good storage option just a couple years away. Finally, as Joanna Macy says, mass sanity could break out at any moment. Thank you.
The good news is that the pledge drive is about over. We have about 79% of our goal reached. But unfortunately, half of our congregation has yet to pledge. So we will be calling this week, and those of you who need a card, please ask for them. We have them out here in the front, and be pleased to hand them to you. Yes, sir. What? I'm trying, lady. I'm trying. I'm trying. Okay, eat it. James mentioned that the DOE has awarded our group money for renovations. We're still negotiating with them as to exactly what we'll be doing. Those negotiations are going on now. I don't expect them to conclude until the end of the year. But anyhow, we are in the group that was funded, and I'm so, so pleased. And lastly, Katie's not here, but Friday, we will probably finalize our draft church budget for submission to the board. And once they do their work on it, it'll be sent out to all of you before the December meeting. And that's my report. Oh, I wanted to say one more thing. I usually have at this point a why I give to UU. And I didn't today because I heard the lovely things that were said about how the church has helped members and what the church stands for. I didn't need to have another person speak. Thank you.
The operation and outreach of our church needs your input and your contributions. This is a perfect time to think about what you can give back. In a moment, the greeters will pass among you with the offering baskets. Please give generously. But before they do that, I should remind you that we support organizations identified by the Social Justice Committee with our Change for Change program. This quarter's recipient for our Change for Change donations is the Mesilla Valley Hospice / La Posada assisted living, where a number of us volunteer. You can give to them by putting your change in the basket or by writing Change for Change on the note line of your check. Please give generously.
Let each spirit soar.
Our closing hymn is Wake Now My Senses, number 298. I invite you to rise and body your spirit to sing our closing hymn.
The closing words are from Arnie Nass, a philosopher, talking about how natural generosity is. The extensive moralizing within the ecological movement has given people the false impression that they're being asked to make a sacrifice, to show more responsibility, more concern, and a nicer standard. But all of that would flow very easily and naturally if the self were widened and deepened so that the protection of nature was felt and perceived as protection of our very selves. Thank you.
Hello. I just wanted to give you a little instruction on the meeting that's coming up, and that is when they do their closing here, go out, get a cup of coffee. They're ready to provide some treats to sustain you during the meeting. Come back in as soon as you can. You can start signing up at a table that's in the back. You sign in, get a voting card, come take your seat. We'll start the meeting at 11:30. If we haven't quite reached a quorum, I have some announcements to share with you before that happens. And thanks for being here. And Dave.
And I think you can bring your food back in here.
Is that all right? Today only? I'm sorry. I was asked, is there an update on our minister, Rod Thompson? And yes, he's at home, he's resting, reading, learning about heart-healthy diets, and, and missing you. He may even be on the meeting, on the Zoom meeting with this business that's coming up, but know that he's thinking of you and he's getting better.
Would you please say with me the words for extinguishing the flame? We extinguish this flame.